It is Friday, June 27th. It's day 159 of the Trump presidency. The Supreme Court went on a rampage today, so we're going to cover at least some of it. Okay, first things first, and people are pretty freaked out about this, but the Supreme Court ruled today that judges are not able to block Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. His executive order on birthright citizenship, at least not for 30 days, okay? So it's basically giving a 30-day pause on the court's abilities to stop Trump from enacting this. And what that means, I believe, at least for the next 30 days, is that if a baby is born here in the United States and one of its parents are not a U.S. citizen, then the family can be deported, the baby can be deported. They do not receive citizenship simply for being born here. You have to have one parent that is already a citizen. There are obviously a bunch of legal organizations that are already in the process of fighting this. It sounds like the ACLU filed an injunction. And again, this is not the Supreme Court saying that Trump's executive order is official and legal. It's buying more time. I'm sorry, he's putting his butt in the camera. It's buying more time for them to make that decision. It sounds like they have to get into the legality of it behind the scenes. And I would expect that they're going to address this again. And like I said, I believe this is for 30 days. So at the end of 30 days, I would expect something else to happen. But, you know, I did tell my TikTok today, people who follow me on TikTok, if I were you, I would keep your expectations for the Supreme Court as low as possible. Sorry, he's very needy today. I would keep them as low as possible because, you know, they're going to do a lot of things that are very bad. Occasionally, they might do something that's kind of okay. And I have one thing to report today, at least, that is okay. So then we'll be happily surprised if something good happens. And we won't be quite as devastated when, you know, they do what we expected them to do in the first place, which is back Trump. You know, we only have really 3 liberal judges, so it requires someone to vote with them in order to not do the most revolting things possible, right? Okay, so that's that, and I'm sure there'll be more coming where that, you know, there'll be more coming to that within the next couple of months. So this is also really big news. Trump is in yet another trade war with Canada. Okay. So for the last year, there has been a 3% tariff. Again, I apologize. He keeps knocking this around. There has been a 3% tariff. It just officially goes into effect on Monday. So it's a 3% tariff on the United States. It's a digital tariff. So essentially, anything, like all of our tech companies are receiving this tariff. But even though it's been in effect for the last year, they did not have to pay anything until Monday. However, they are going to have to back pay what they owe for the last year. So as of Monday, these tech companies owe back pay $2.7 billion. You would think that Trump would have been trying to negotiate, and perhaps he was, but we didn't hear anything about it, right? That Trump would have been trying to negotiate something with Canada all along. But, you know, obviously our relationship with Canada has significantly soured. And so because Canada plans to enforce this beginning Monday, Trump is now saying that he is going to retaliate and that all of the trade negotiations with Canada are immediately halted. So what I'm saying is this is going to be another big pissing contest. And, you know, it's probably going to cost the United States a lot of money because we do a lot of business with Canada. Canada has historically been a huge ally to the United States and one of our most important trading partners. And obviously that relationship, it's not that just that the relationship has soured, it's continuing to devolve. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Sometimes, I'm so sorry, he's like headbutting my phone. Well, he's, you know, rubbing his whiskers on it. Sometimes these situations with Trump, the chaos is really getting to me. Sometimes these situations with Trump end up ironing themselves out somehow. I was telling my friend last night, we were talking about, the disaster that is the United States currently. I will say something almost nice about Trump. I don't know if nice is exactly the right word, but he has that sort of Forrest Gump quality to him. I actually don't think he's a particularly intelligent man at all. I think that Putin is brilliant. I think that Netanyahu is brilliant. I think that Trump is very average intelligence, maybe even lower than average. I think he has charisma, but he has something more important than charisma, which is that weird sort of like fate situation that Forrest Gump, who is a fictional character, also had. There's something weird about him, and maybe it's because there's almost no filter from his instinct to his action. I don't know if you guys know exactly what I'm saying, but there's something about him just acting directly through his impulses at all times that causes this like crazy, insane ripple effect around him, and strange things happen. And every once in a while, some of it's good. And I'm not even convinced that what's happening here in the United States won't be good in the very long run. I don't know that it's going to be any good for us anytime soon. It seems like we're in for a very rough period of time. That being said, maybe he was sent here to destroy us, honestly. I don't even think I'm joking. I don't know. Who am I to say that that's not what's supposed to happen? I don't know. But my point is, we don't know what's going to happen with Canada either. All these other countries have to sort of do this weird dance with him and around him to try to muddle through, because they have their own bills to pay, right? And they have countries to run. Anyways, I think I'm going to toss this in here just as an aside because it's funny, but the head of NATO referred to Trump as daddy on camera this week. I almost threw up, man. I guess he was probably sort of being sarcastic, but it didn't sound like it in his tone. And like Trump certainly didn't think that he was being sarcastic. Like Trump doesn't pick up on that stuff. Literally, Trump was talking about the fighting between Israel and Iran, which, by the way, I believe that they're still in a ceasefire. I haven't heard of them bombing each other in a couple of days, and I will give an update on that in a moment. He's talking about Iran and Israel fighting like children, and then the head of NATO interrupts and goes, "Oh, and sometimes daddy has to use strong language." I think it's because earlier in the day, Trump had said fuck on camera, saying that Iran and Israel wouldn't stop fighting and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Anyways, we live in some kind of Black Mirror nightmare. I really don't know what's going on. Okay, quick update about Iran and Israel. Yes, the ceasefire initially, when Trump first announced the ceasefire, it didn't last very long at all. And then Israel, I think that they both did strikes against each other. And that's when Trump, the next morning, became very heated about it. But since then, I have not heard of anything. However, the Ayatollah, who was not seen or heard from for 5 days. So many people were concerned about his health or concerned that maybe something had happened to him. Obviously, it sounded like at one point Israel was literally hunting him. A video message came out from the Ayatollah, and it was recorded in the same exact place as his last video message. But again, it's impossible to ascertain when it was recorded. He did, however, reference the strikes from the United States, so it must have been after that. And he said that Iran, defeated the United States and Israel. He made some sort of other kind of threat-ish. But honestly, I have not so far seen Israel retaliate, and I have not heard Trump say or do much to retaliate either. So maybe they're just ignoring him and thinking he's doing it to try to save face. I don't know. Time will tell if that situation sort of rears its head again or not. Obviously, things are still incredibly horrible in Gaza as well. It's tough to even talk about what's happening there, but people are being shot by the IDF while they're waiting in the bread lines. I mean, literally, One day it was 45 people that were killed, just waiting for food. So it's not good. It's not good, and they're not able to get food in. Israel won't allow it. So I don't know what to say about that. What is there to say? But it continues, and the world is not doing enough. And, it's not going to be the United States that stops it. Okay, so I hate to try to transition from that. The Supreme Court is upholding the Affordable Care Act. And unless I'm misunderstanding something, it sounds like the people are going to continue receiving free preventative care treatments. Some of which probably is part of what Republicans were trying to block, are things like PrEP that stops people from contracting HIV and AIDS. So I don't know if that's what, I think that DOJ was looking for waste and fraud or whatever, and decided that they wanted to probably cut a bunch of people off of any medications that they could that they feel they don't deserve or something. So I don't know if that's part of the reason why that particular medication was targeted, but it's just one example where people would certainly not be able to afford if they were paying out of pocket, because it's thousands of dollars. In any case, again, time will tell what happens to our healthcare. So far, it hasn't been great. However, you know what? I didn't write this down. I just heard a tiny little bit about this. This is huge news yesterday, so hopefully you guys can go and do your own research. But it sounds like a Republican blocked some of the measures that would have removed Medicaid and Medicare in the Republican tax bill. So it sounds like the bill got kind of tanked and destroyed. I don't know what the next steps are for that. I don't know if they're going to try to revise it. I have been slammed, honestly, between work and then like the non-stop blast of breaking news. I've been making like 5 to 7 TikToks a day, and I'm not covering all of it at all. Anyway, next. So yes, go look into what's happening with the budget bill, because it's a big deal. And I'm sorry I didn't write it down. I didn't even go read about it yet. I haven't had time. I literally just skimmed the headlines for today. Okay, so the Supreme Court also ruled today, and this is why you can see, like, how could I cover all of this? It would take me 3 hours. The Supreme Court also ruled today that parents can pull their children from any school lessons that are using LGBT books. They're citing like religious freedoms in order to do this, and it is what it is, man. It does sort of feel like we should literally be living in separate societies. I'm not gonna lie. I keep sort of coming back to that, 'cause I don't know it doesn't seem like we have any values in common anymore, or like that we see freedom as meaning the same thing, or even society. It doesn't seem like society means the same thing to conservative people that it does to liberals and leftists. So I don't know. Time will tell what happens to this country. If we're still a country in 5 years, part of me will be surprised. The United States and China, it sounds like, have agreed to a framework of a deal involving trade. And it's heavily centered, they said, on rare earth minerals, but there's no details being released to the public. They're still determining what those details are. Trump is saying they signed a deal. China is saying that there's no details in the works yet. So maybe they've agreed that they're going to move forward with some kind of a deal, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Things change real fast around here, to say the least. Okay, the primaries for New York I'm not sure if you guys have been following this. There's a man named Zoran Mamdani. He has beat Andrew Cuomo out in those primaries, despite Andrew Cuomo, what I think he raised, I want to say it was like over $1 billion or something crazy, or millions, if not $1 billion. It was a lot of money. He raised a lot of money. He spent a lot of money, and Mamdani totally smoked him. I don't even know. I think it was by more than 10%. Some crazy Some crazy percentage. And Eric Adams, who's the incumbent, did not even run in the primaries. He is going to obviously be running against Mamdani in the general election in November. So some of the unions had been previously backing Cuomo, and today they just came out, two big unions in New York came out and have decided to back Mamdani. And that's a pretty big deal for Cuomo, because Cuomo was thinking of still running as an independent, but it sounds like he's not going to have the support to even be able to do that. I will say that both Republicans and Democrats have been going absolutely berserk and bashing Mamdani. They're bringing up 9/11 because the man is Arabic. It's so racist. He was born here. He's a U.S. citizen. They're being insane. And it's not... He is not as good of a wingman for this show as Snacks. He's a little bit more thuggish and very clumsy. Anyways, yeah, the Democrats are calling him a socialist. He is a democratic socialist. They literally can't digest the fact that the reason why democratic socialists are so popular and so much more popular than the shitty centrist, borderline, if not completely Republican candidates they keep putting up is because people are desperate for a change financially. People can't afford their bills, bitch. That's it. That's literally it. In fact, I still stand by my statement that that's basically all the problems that this country has, in my opinion, all come back down to the fact that people can't pay their bills anymore. People can't pay their bills. You need to be making almost $100,000 to be able to afford to have kids in a home in this country. And even $100,000 is frequently, it's not enough necessarily to be able to put away for your retirement. Anyways, we're not good. People are not doing well. And they're desperate for change. It's why they're voting Donald Trump into office, because he keeps promising to do drastic things. And when people get desperate, they start believing that immigrants are the problem. And I'm not suggesting that, racist people are not going to be racist if they have more money, but they would probably spend a lot less time worrying about racism than they would just going on vacation with their kids. So I personally believe, and again, maybe this was all the fate of our country and maybe this is just what needs to happen. It's not for me to say. But you will never convince me that it wasn't the financial disparity between the rich and the poor that caused literally all of this in the first place. And it's greed. It's the greed of the corporate class. It's the greed of corporate America. It's the greed of the billionaires that will be their undoing and the undoing of this democracy and the country too. So anyways, I'm worried because Republicans are saying they want to deport Mr. Mamdani. They're I'm not so much worried that they'll be able to deport him because he's a U.S. citizen. Although, Lord knows I wouldn't be surprised in this climate, but I am worried about someone hurting him for sure. Because you know what it's like out there right now, and you know how insane people are, and it doesn't seem very safe, and he's a very brave person for doing this, because honestly, I don't know if I would have the guts to do what he's doing in this country, in this political climate right now. I don't even know, as a woman. I would be scared to. As a white woman, I would be terrified to stand where he's standing, period. It's, you know me, I think I've told you, I'm afraid to go to a protest. And frankly, people have gotten, there's some kind of gas that they've been using at protests that causes cancer. I can't remember what it's called. It's like green or something when they release it. They've used it, so they used it in some of the LA protests. And it's literally like a military gas that causes cancer. I think it takes 10 years, but it causes cancer. It's not, I think this is the least safe I've ever felt in this country in my entire life. I mean, I know that it is. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Anyway, all right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys. And I know I haven't been on here as much. Like I said, things are super busy. We're transitioning to our summer schedule with camp things will settle down a little bit. It's just been a busy month. And frankly, I have been crazily drained from the news cycle. Again, trying to keep up with TikTok. I am going to be posting a lot more shorts on here. I won't post everything from TikTok to here because sometimes I'm just saying stuff that YouTube seems like a more serious place. So I try to, but any kind of like real news, if I do a short about real news, I'm going to post it here. All right. I love you guys. I hope you guys are all doing okay. I appreciate you being here. See you soon.